All right.
Are you kidding me? No.
Okay.
Did you
All right.
record back there?
I did.
All right. Critter, you're up.
5 buckets of wealth. So today, that's what we're gonna talk about, and, you see stocks and bonds, real estate, cash, and alternative investments. And then, important disclaimer. We are not licensed financial advisors, period, that pay attention to it. Investment for professionals or CPAs, so anything we say will not be used against us in the court of law, because we don't know, we're not,
His wife's an attorney, so
Yeah.
he knows.
Yeah, I'm married to an attorney, so I know my rights, believe me. And it costs me money a lot. Anyway, all right.
Okay, so my favorite quote from this slide is at the bottom. Money is something that you need to make in case you don't die. That's why you need to make money, in case you don't die. That's why you need money. So, the goal of investing, we need cash flow, so we need money that's coming in consistently to cover our expenses and our needs. We need stability, protection against unexpected financial storms. We need options, the ability to say yes or no when we want to on our own terms. And we need freedom to control over our time and our life decision. So investing and the whole idea of wealth in general is not about getting rich as far as money goes. It's about getting wealthy with these things that really equate to freedom, to not being trapped without options. All right, on the bottom of this slide, my goal in teaching this class is to make sure that people like me, who maybe have been a W-2 earner their whole life, understands investment terms enough where you don't feel stupid if you go talk to a financial advisor, right? So words like diversification, asset allocation, risk management, they sound a little bit more complicated. They're really not. It really is just like balancing a stool, okay? So if you just have one bucket, we're talking about 5 buckets today, but if you only have all of your investments in one bucket, it makes it risky because everything is depending on that one source, okay? Whenever you have multiple different investment strategies, then if one of them dies down, you can focus on the other ones, okay? So concrete is, each of those things are strong, but they're not as strong as they are together. So if you mix cement, water, sand, and gravel together, then it makes a much stronger product than if you were just to have one of those things. All right.
All right, so the 5 buckets. All right, so we've got cash and cash reserves, financial instruments, real estate, entrepreneurship, and other assets. We're gonna go through these in detail, but again, like Buffy said, you don't just pick one bucket and ignore the rest. So financial security comes from building all 5 intentionally, and strategically over time. So we're gonna dive into each one of these, and I think I go first.
You do. I will say also, just so you guys know, we're having a separate whole class about most of these. So like our next class will be about financial instruments. So we'll have an entire hour just on that bucket. Then we'll have a class or two that's just about investing in real estate.
No.
Then a class that's just about investing in a business, so that you get a more deep dive into each of those buckets than just what we're covering today.
Yep, okay. All right, so the next one is, thank you, Buffy. All right, so cash and cash reserves. So this is kind of the foundation bucket, right? Right, we need to have safety first, right? And so we understand that this is the only bucket that's capped. All the other buckets are not capped, potentially, right? You're gonna keep flowing money into those other buckets of assets in order to grow additional income, but this is the one that's gonna be capped, all right? So what goes here? Your emergency savings fund, your high yield savings account, your money market accounts, your checking account buffers. Please don't put under the mattress on this list, right? That's not where you should be putting money, right? And having all of your money in a checking account should also not be on this list, all right? A checking account is not meant for reserves, savings. Does anybody remember why we talked about this when we talked about inflation? Why would a checking account be a bad place to keep reserves?
You lose money
Why?
because of inflation.
Because of inflation,
What I buy today in 5 years is not
right?
gonna be worth the same.
Every day your money, let's just think about this bucket has a leak, right? And it's a leak that's caused by taxes and inflation, right? So we gotta make sure we're smart about where we put our money in cash and cash reserves in order to, it can grow here, right? And it should grow here. How much will it grow? You want it to grow at a minimum to keep up with the inflation, okay? So if you know what inflation is, then you're gonna work really hard not to just stick it in something like a CD or a money market account, because that may still be losing money.
What's a money market account?
Checking accounts, different savings accounts, those.
Just regular bank?
Yep.
Yes.
It's at a bank, yep.
It's a special type of savings account that you can access at any time.
So the benefits of having cash and cash reserves, of course, is liquidity. All right, you can get your money, generally speaking, at a moment's notice, within a day or two. Short-term protection, it covers unexpected expenses without debt. It's peace of mind, and peace of mind is different for everybody, so you sleep better knowing that you're covered. And then this rule of thumb, it says here, and you know, we've thrown out different rules of thumb, so you have to think about what's appropriate for you. This says keep approximately 4 months of expenses or no more than 20% of your total net worth in cash. Now it says no more than 20%, right? Not a minimum, okay? At some point, again, we talked about this as a capped bucket. At some point, money in here, too much money in here is wasted money, right? Can you retire off of money only in this bucket? Why not?
Because if you're tired, you ain't paying, you're not putting money in that bucket. Kind
Okay.
of, you're not putting,
Can you make this bucket big enough to where you can one day just stop working and start living off this bucket?
I don't know, yes.
Okay.
You could, then you die the next year, I don't know.
Okay.
It's practically impossible.
Well, why is it, anybody want to answer this question? I can answer it, I'm sure Critter can answer it, Buffy, you can answer it. Why is it practically impossible to retire off of only this bucket? Off of only savings from, again, where does the savings come from? Where does this money come from? This money is coming from your earned income, okay? Can you retire off of your earned income alone?
No. So 401k is not in,
This
This
is
bucket?
that's a different bucket.
okay,
Yep, good question. 401k is being in a bucket because it's gonna do something with your money, all right? It's gonna invest it for you. We'll talk about that, right?
okay.
So, but I just wanna make sure we understand that we can never earn enough money, no matter how much real estate we sell, all right? It's not going to provide us with the ability just to put that money in a savings account, even if it's earning something that's beating inflation. It's probably only barely beating inflation in this bucket, right? So you're not going to, you would have to work for, let's say you worked for 40 years, all right, and saved 50%, all right, and you kept up with inflation. Well, then you're allowed to live 20 years off of that money, then you have to die. Okay?
That's what I said.
That's
whole
the math,
point
right?
is
But you
have
also,
to
in that 40
make
years,
money
you have
in
to
case you don't
save 50% of every penny you earn. Doesn't mean taxes or nothing's paid. Nothing's paid except for your future retirement. Make sense? Now, is that feasible?
If you live 41 years, you're screwed.
Now, if you live 21 years, you're screwed.
Well, 21.
Yeah. Having worked 40 and saved 50% of your income and kept up with inflation, but again, and you'd still have to keep investing that to keep up with inflation in order for that money to grow with the cost of living, okay? So being in this bucket alone is where you start, but it's never where you finish, okay? And again, that 4 months, what's your safety number? If you had the appropriate amount of reserves to cover all of your expenses for you to live your life, how many months would you want? Or how much money would you want?
I would've went 6 months.
6 months,
Yeah.
okay? Brian, how many months?
Minimum.
Should I ask for Linda instead?
Probably minimum of 12.
12 months? Linda, what would you say? 12, okay, you're on the same page, that's good. Jessica, how many months
First
of
time for
reserves?
everything.
If this is, I'll recap, this is the cash and cash reserves bucket. So this is our foundational bucket, right? This is where we take our earned income and we set it aside for emergencies or just anything, all right? A period of work where we don't have it because we're ill or something like that. How many months would you want?
I'd say 12.
12 months? Penny? 12 months? Chris?
3.
3 months? There's like a whole conversation just happened right there, right?
Mine's between 4 and 6. I think I'm at 4 right now. I would love to get to 6, but I don't want more than 6.
Mine's 3, right? Why is yours 3? People should hear this.
Well, I think that at 3 months that, well, you've got your insurances and things like that that help protect that as well, which is a whole nother avenue of conversation as far as long-term disability versus short-term disability. You don't have to have short-term disability if you have your bucket, right? You don't have to pay for that because that is your bucket. The long-term disability is anything after, I don't even remember what the exact, maybe it is after 3 months of not working, so you've got that in
I
place.
think
So
it's after 6 months. That's
yeah,
after 6 months.
it's what, you know, your whole,
And it only goes
it's
generally
a
2
whole
years,
look
right?
at it, and then you just, I'm willing to gamble on myself to make money, you know, regardless if it's my dream job of working at Bass Pro.
I think our position is, as that number is going to change as you get older.
Well, I think it changes too when, not to pick on you, but it's
Go ahead.
easy.
Yeah, I mean,
You
be a first
know,
one.
as you get older, or you start to have health complications, where you don't have that confidence that I can do this job or that job or what have you, that perspective changes.
I think it grows as you get closer to where your income is winding down,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So when I say 3, and by the way, there's no wrong answer here, but when you hear me and Chris say 3 months, you hear Buffett say 6 months, and a lot of you are saying 12 months, let's understand the difference, right? If I'm not able to work for 12 months, well, first of all, I'd probably just rather die, because I like work, right? What I think of is from an illness standpoint or from an economic standpoint, the economy, in real estate, we worry about the economy slowing down and whether our business keep up. What we know to be true about this real estate market we're in, which for the last 3.5 years has been the worst real estate market in history, as far as sales, considering the population, right? And what have we done? What have we successfully been able to navigate through? Are we selling as many homes we sold in 2021? No. Are we selling 0 compared to that number? No, right? Am I selling something, basically, my 3 months gives me an opportunity for my business to slow down by 50%, right? Because it's not gonna go away completely, so I'm not gonna blow through 3 months of reserves in 3 months. It might take me a year to get through 3 months of reserves. Does that make sense? Because I'm not completely dissolving all my other income sources.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and my
sure.
thought honestly is that my husband and I both work, so the chances of us both losing our jobs at the exact same time for the exact same period of time is pretty rare right now.
Yeah.
Like I might not be able to earn income, or he might not be able to earn income, but probably one or the other of us is gonna be fine on the other one's income right now, so.
Here's the other thing to think about. And this goes, Brian, back to what you said about where you are in relationship to a retirement age, right? I'm 53, so I want no more than 3 months reserves because I want all that money working really hard for me beyond 3 months. Because I don't want to work until I'm 67, all right? So, which is what the Social Security says I should work till.
And Rob,
I just
one thing
checked
too
today.
is, you know, you have grown children, I have grown children.
Yep.
I don't believe you do. And that's part of it as well. You don't, you know, you get other mouths to feed.
Yeah.
As well. You know, if you had to go get a full-time job at Bass Pro right now, it might, you know, there's other complications to doing something like that. Rob and I aren't held down to that as well.
Yep, good point. All right, so everybody has their own number and for various reasons. So just think through that, and if you want to have a conversation around what your number should be, then it's probably a math equation of some type. Okay, it's not a guess. It is about sleeping at night, but I think knowing the actual math helps you sleep at night. Guessing that you need 12 months may not help you sleep at night. If you thought I might be wasting 6 months of money that could be invested at something getting me a better return. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. We are moving on to, why cash has a lid. All right, let me make sure I don't miss anything on this. So I think we talked about this already. Cash protects you in the short term, but it doesn't grow your wealth over time. That's what we just talked about, right? In fact, inflation quietly erodes its purchasing power year after year. Once this bucket is full, the excess cash must go somewhere else into buckets that can actually grow and compound. If you keep pouring, all right, you can see the wine glasses here. If you keep pouring and you don't have any other buckets underneath, inflation acts like a slow leak, reducing the cash that you can buy into your future, all right? So the champagne tower is a perfect example. Once the top glass is full, your top bucket is full, the overflow naturally cascades into the other buckets, the other classes. All right? Let's see, Chris, can you walk us through financial instruments, bucket number 2?
Yes, all right. What goes here? Individual stocks and bonds, and individual stocks, I think we all understand what that is, but I'll give you the quick and easy on that is you own, if there's 1 million shares of publicly traded stock and you own 1 share, you own 1/1,000,000th of that company. It's the easiest way to look at it. Okay, bonds, all kinds of different bonds that you use for different strategies as you continue on. You got municipal bonds, you've got tax-free bonds. Tax-free bonds are, you get paid a lower rate, but you're not paying taxes on the growth. Okay, and they do fluctuate. If you put $10,000 into a bond, and I won't get real complicated, but that doesn't just stay, at $10,000, that can go up and down as well. But if you don't sell it, you continue to get the same amount of money off of it. So that's a whole nother, index funds, Dow Jones Industrial Average, you see it on the news or wherever every day.
S&P 500.
Yeah, S&P 500, that's the index funds, okay? 529 savings plans, I just wrapped up, I just got the last payment. My son graduates at the end of this year, it's the second one through college. We started saving early at 529 accounts. We've already paid for his last semester, so we took the additional, I think it was $4,500 or something like that. We're going to use it for his room and board because he lives off campus. We're going to use that over the next couple of months to eat that up. So that's a 529. That's a whole nother thing you got to do too. You can do it for grandkids. If we had enough money left in there, we could have saved it and given it to cousins or nephews and nieces or grandkids later on as well. So things like that to think about. Passive growth, your money works while you're sleeping, right? You don't even know it's happening. It's just there. Tax advantages, like I talked about, you can defer the taxes, you can reduce the taxes by using tax-free in there on any gains and things like that. There's all kinds of different things to do inside of that. I don't do my own. I have somebody that does that, and I'm sure Rob has people that give him advice, and Buffy as well. Time matters more than the amount of money, and we're going to get into, and I hope this works, we're going to get into a calculator. I can't believe Rob allowed me to do this, because it's actually, I get one. Rob throwing me a bone to allow me to be able to use a calculator and that. But we're going to do just a couple of quick ones, and we can actually, if somebody wants to give me some numbers, we can go into it. But we talked about compound interest and stuff like that. I believe it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. We talked about that. So we've talked about, man, if you could just save X amount of dollars per month over a period of time, how much would it grow to? And there's a really cool calculator that I get to try to work that will help us kind of come up with some scenarios. And just so you know, I sent this to my kids today and told them to mess with it. Okay?
You're going up, not down. This is the down here.
Because you can enter your own thing in here, and as soon as I can find, there it is. So we're going to start with a balance of $1,000. We'll just make it simple. 11%. That's pretty
Healthy?
Yeah, it's pretty healthy, honestly. You need to put something in there, 7-8%. If you're not getting 7-8, if somebody's giving you financial advice and you're not getting 7-8% off of that, probably need to have another conversation with someone else or find some other things to invest in.
Let's
Purely
say
passive.
inflation is 3%.
Yeah.
All right, and you're getting 4% on a savings account. Can you put in 4%?
Can I?
We
Yep.
wanna show them how slowly it grows in that first bucket, right?
4%. You're gonna do $300 a month in that?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
You put $300, you put $1,000 in,
Mhm.
and you put $300 in that savings bucket every single time,
Mhm.
every month.
Okay. And then you see what it grows to. And I'm sorry, I'm not.
So after 50 years, you're gonna have 500,000.
Yeah.
50 years.
After 50 years of doing that at
Christy,
just
how
the
old will you be in
4%.
50 years?
100.
Yeah, so, but you look, it really hasn't grown much,
Right.
throughout time. All right. So
Well,
perfect.
and think about how much money that is per month that has also been added. You
Yeah.
know, like $300 a month times 12 times 50, like,
Mhm.
that's a lot of money.
What is that? My calculator's on the phone, so.
Oh, here we go, yeah. So, let's play with this just for a second, and let's put in, like I said, 8%. Let's just put in 8% and see what happens,
So
okay?
you're putting 180,000
To get the
to
500.
give the 580.
So you're compounding only 400,000. The other
Okay.
180 comes from your savings,
Growth.
from your earned income.
That's a long.
Okay, so now we started with our same $1,000,
Mhm.
right? Now we're gonna do 8%, now we're gonna see what compound interest does. And really see what it does.
It's still the same 300, right?
Yeah, still the same 300, we're not gonna
That's
change
kind of
that.
capped, right? We can only
We're gonna
save
keep
so
things
much.
constant so you can see how quickly, it can grow. Boom, alright, now,
2,449,000, or to get to the 500,000 mark, you are
Yeah.
about 30 years to get roughly the same.
the same
So
amount of
20
time.
years sooner.
You see how that works? Okay, now,
Now, Chris, because I don't know what number you're gonna put in next, but because we are talking about wealth building.
Yep.
Right? A wealthy number starts at 12%.
when we look at, I should say, I don't know what his, but when you look at a rental property and you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, this isn't the hard truth, but this is one I go on, is I need to be making 12% on my money. Because I know I can do a hard money lend for 10% and reduce my risk, because as the percentage goes up, as the risk goes up, your percentage should go up as well. So that's one way to look at it. So if we did 12%, which is, now we're talking about, hey, we're making some real estate type stuff. Big difference, right?
Yeah. In those 30 years, you got $1 million, almost 1.1 million.
And then if you were to do it over 50 years, you got 12.
Teaching your kids, right? Start young.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of things that we really, you look at it and, man, and, one thing when you do this, it's there, right? You still have that money, it's still your money, but if you can become disciplined enough to say, when my money goes into this, whatever that account is, I'm gonna forget about it. It's like I don't have it.
Mhm.
Wow, you can really, really, all of a sudden you're gonna wake up and you're, 52 years old or 55 or, 87. You wake up and all of a sudden you're, you've got quite a bit of money and you feel much more comfortable. It's, the balancing act of trying to figure out when to do all of that,
So
okay?
Yes.
stupid question, I think.
Yep,
So.
yep.
You calculating interest, is this when you're looking for, like, when you're putting it into 401k or into a high yield savings account? Is that what you're looking, like?
Yeah, so if I'm looking at a 401k, and that 401k is going to have options, generally speaking, right? Do you have a 401k?
I have a 401k and I don't know what to do with it
Okay.
anymore.
So
It just makes money.
the company that manages that, who manages the 401k? Prudential?
Lincoln Financial.
Okay, so Lincoln Financial has options of where you can put that money, usually 10 to 20 options, all right? And those options can be very conservative based on like cash and bonds, all right? And those yields might be 3 to 4 or 5%. And then there are more risky things, and, you know, I know we're gonna get into this in a class, but to answer your question, if you take their prospectus, all right, yeah, they'll show you all those, and you're looking at like a 10-year trend, no less than a 5-year trend. And they'll tell you like, oh, this 10-year trend is 8%, or it's 9%, or it's 7%. And then you can plug those numbers into a calculator like this and say, oh, if I put my money in there for the next 10 years, this is what's gonna happen.
So I say I have one, but I don't know what to do with it, because when I was on a W-2 job,
Mhm.
and I worked at the casino for 25 years,
Yep.
I have that 401k.
Yep, so
But
now
I've
you
been
need
gone
to roll
almost
it
3
over.
years, and it
Yeah.
just sits there.
Yep.
Now
Yeah,
I've
you need
made
to roll it.
So you need to roll it
12,000
over
in
with a
1
financial
year, and
advisor
now
into
it's not
an
even me
IRA.
putting, I'm not putting anything into it, but it did make 12,000 last year.
One thing to say to that, and we are not professionals, 100%. But one thing to think about is that is your money.
Mhm.
You might wanna get that money and put it into, like Rob said, you roll it over. No tax consequences to it if you do it properly. I'd have a professional do it for you, to make sure you're inside of all the tax laws. But you can roll that over and then you're controlling it. You're controlling it where it goes, and that professional can help you lay out based on your tolerance level, what your.
My
you know-
husband wants me to roll it into his 401k, is that easy
No,
allowed?
no, you can't, no,
Can't do that.
it's your money.
We believe you can't do that as,
Yeah, right.
As
We
critical-
believe you
That's
can't, but
not
no.
novice.
As Critter, the divorce attorney, said, no!
Yeah, no.
I said, well, you need to make me a beneficiary before I give you
Well,
anything.
yeah, that's a whole nother, yeah.
We'll talk after, Critter.
Okay,
Is that gonna
so-
change?
couples
too?
counseling class across the hall.
one thing that I really feel strongly about that younger people don't understand is that compound interest works both ways, okay? So if you are investing, you are earning money. If you have debt and payments on things like credit cards and cars, you are also compounding the debt, right? So a lot of people now are looking at just what is my monthly payment and can I afford the monthly payment? And they are not thinking about the fact that compound interest works both ways, okay? So not only are you paying a lot more over a lot longer of a time that you hold that debt, but it's also a lost opportunity cost. So my life example of this was I had one student loan for 1 semester of school, 1 semester that wasn't covered by my full ride, okay? Went 1 extra semester. That semester cost me $20,000, okay? And that semester for $20,000, I paid on for 10 years, okay? Now that was way back when, cause I'm old, and my interest rate on that student loan was at 2%, okay? So, just thinking in terms of monthly payments, it was about $137 that I paid every month for 10 years, okay? To pay off that 1 semester, 3 months of school, okay? $137. At the same time, I had a 401k because I had started my new job, knew nothing about it, but they had, you know, a thing, and I was like, okay, well, what can I do? I put about the exact same, it was $130 a month into that 401k. So about the same exact payment over the same amount of time. So 10 years to pay off $20,000 at $137 a month. Same time frame, that 10 years, my 401k was at $40,000. So just imagine if I had not had that $20,000 debt or that $137 payment a month, and if I had been able to double what I had been putting into my 401k, well, I could have had $100,000. So it's not just the debt of the $20,000 that you're thinking about. It's the loss of where else that money could be going. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this calculator,
You're gonna get all these calculators, by the way.
Yeah.
If you,
you'll get the slides and you can just click on them. So again, questions to consider. What is optional spending that could be directed toward your investment instead? Even $130, that was a pretty big amount,
Mhm.
right? So this is a calculator that just shows you if you were to stop drinking coffee daily, you spend $4 on a cup of coffee every single day. That's $122 a month. If you dine out weekly, 3 times a week at $40. I don't know about you, but it's a lot more expensive than $40,
Yes.
right? So even if you just play in this calculator with what are some optional things, maybe you don't wanna cut out everything, but maybe you cut out some of the things. What could you come
Or
up
just
with?
reduce the frequency.
Right here, that would be your monthly amount that you could find from other places to then put into an investment and what that could look like. So this, in the first year, after 10 years, this is on 10% interest compounded monthly. So this is with this amount calculated all the way through. So with 75 years, this monthly amount turns into $240 million. Now, I don't know that you're gonna do that for 75 years, but even, on a 10-year, like I said, my loan was for 10 years, $233,000, that was a pretty big chunk of money, that would have bought my second house, basically, first and second house. So you'll get to play with these calculators, but this might also be something, that you just wanna play with very small numbers, but see what they can actually do. You can make small changes that have a bigger impact.
Buffy, got a question for you. If,
Yeah.
and I may be trying to get confused here, but if you take the $130 that you're paying the school and you take $130 that you're saving, instead take the $260 and just slam the school to get it to go away and then start investing, does that number get bigger or smaller, or do you need to really run the number and figure out which
I
one?
think you just have to do the math, right?
Cause it
Like
may be different.
I didn't have the choice on, I had to pay the student loan off, right? Like at that point, they weren't just letting me not pay it. But I was doing Dave Ramsey at the time, so I was doing a snowball, so that was one of my last ones to go, to pay off. And I did pay it off earlier, but,
So the question is a matter of spread.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the interest rate? 2%. What am I doing with that money to earn money? So the question you're asking is about spread. What options do I have to put that money in something else?
Spread and the interest rate.
Yeah, so, cause it might make more sense not to pay it off early, right? Cause remember, debt is not a bad thing, right, inherently. It's what we have debt on that makes it bad, right? But if she's paying only 2%, that's it, 2%, something that's less than inflation. That's key here, okay? She's paying something less than inflation. Well, she's not losing as much money as we think just by thinking about, okay, I'm gonna pay it over 10 years, right? Because inflation is causing the value of that dollar to go down anyway, right? But if I can go put that money in something else like earning 10%, instead of paying off that debt faster, doesn't make sense to pay it off faster. It'd be like having a 0% interest loan, all right? So I've got $20,000 in debt at 0% interest. Do I pay that off faster? The answer is heck no. Someone gifted me the value of inflation, so I'm actually paying this off over a period of time where when I'm making my final payment, it's worth less money to me then than it was in the 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right?
But again, you don't wanna base your decisions on math over behavior until you know
That's
that
true.
you can control your behavior. Cause the behavior is the most important thing first, and it is way too easy to just not pay that debt and then also not invest that. So until you have the behavior and you've proven yourself to have the right behaviors, I would still pay off the debt first before worrying about investing.
Well, at least put those numbers side by side and take a look and see which one's which.
So that looks like, I like the calculator, so I have this struggle of, like, then I feel guilty because I bought some random thing at TJ Maxx. And instead of investing it, so that's when my brain is like, oh, we can't go have fun and do these things, so on the emotional side or whatever, that's where I'm like, well, I could cut back that, but then I'm like, oh, I can tell my daughter we're not gonna go have a spa day once every 6
I
months.
mean, the choices are yours, right? So
It's
you
all
can-
budgetary, it's all budgetary.
I know, but then to cut the budget, you know, to invest, that's
We-
me mentally going, okay, well, you know what, we're going to eat ramen noodles because I don't want my groceries to be $800.
So
when you're going over the top.
here's a way to think about it. Pay your future self before you pay your present self. So pay your future first, which means invest. It doesn't mean stop paying yourself today, which means having fun with your daughter. It's just make a choice to do one before the other, not one instead of the other,
Okay.
right? Does that
Yeah,
help?
Yeah.
Right? It's not, I almost wanna say that one's a reward for the other, right? You invest it wisely, so now you get the reward of doing a thing, but it's really just about the habit of paying your future first before you pay yourself today. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's all habits and choices, but if you just think the mindset habit, because the way we think is really the biggest habit that we have, think about paying your future first before you pay your present. Okay?
I'm
All right.
gonna stop our camera and restart it so it's not so
Okay.
long.
Alright, and now
There we go.
we're gonna move into the bucket of real estate. We have no knowledge of this, right? So, alright, so the bucket of real estate. What are we talking about here? Rental property, short-term, long-term, mid-term. Your primary residence and the value of that equity that you can build in your primary residence and what you can do with that. Commercial real estate investments, and REITs, real estate investment trust. So there's, you know, think about all the different possibilities here. You know, self-storage, right, Brian Hazley?
Oh, yeah.
Multifamily, all right, owning commercial land or commercial buildings, all right, and then of course residential buildings, all right. Those are all real estate. There's some other real estate that we'll get into later down the road. So, cash flow, so monthly rental income covering expenses and more, right? So hopefully it's gonna cash flow enough to cover that and also put money back in your pocket, right? That you can use to not necessarily live on, but to reinvest, right? Appreciation, so your value of your property increases over time, right? Well, a lot of people in real estate are concerned about property values, right? Is it gonna be a good investment today? What's gonna happen in 3 years? Well, I can tell you right now, if you're buying real estate for investments and you're only thinking 3 to 5 years, you're not really buying real estate as an investment. I don't know what, you're probably doing it just for tax reasons, right? Which is an advantage here, but for appreciation standpoint, you should consider, I'm holding that for 10 plus years, right? You're gonna be holding that for a long term, okay? So in that case, we know all real estate values go up over time, right? There's a question that Jason Abrams likes to ask everybody. Jason Abrams is one of the higher ups in Keller Williams, and he always would ask the question, if you could go back 20 years and look at a subdivision and buy every piece of real estate in that subdivision based on today's values, would you do it? And the answer is 100% yes, always, without a doubt. We'd always make that decision because we know looking back, real estate appreciates, and it appreciates a lot, okay? And it'll survive any downturn in the market, which typically lasts no more than 5 to 7 years, all right? So, debt pay down, tenants pay your mortgage for you, right? So someone's paying the debt for you, so you get the benefit of increased equity by debt paying down your mortgage, and then you get the effects of appreciation as well. So you're growing money 2 ways essentially, right? And then tax advantages, depreciation, expense deductions, those are reasons why this has to be one of your buckets, right? So different strategies, same bucket, whether it's short-term rentals, long-term leases, real estate is a path to wealth. All right, Chris, take it away for bucket number 4.
All right, on to entrepreneurship. We, the three of us up here, probably, well, everybody in the room is doing their own thing, because you've got your nut company. Yeah, nut company. I tried to look it up, actually. I forgot what you said the name of it was. I tried to look it up that night at home and forgot it. But anyway, so we understand this a lot. You own your own business, right? Or if you're like Rob and Buffy and Brian, you own a lot of businesses. Just some of them are better than others.
Some
So
of them are
anyway.
noisier than others.
Yeah, yeah. You know, another one would be side hustles, and we all understand what side hustles are. What can you do to? I think last week we talked about that.
Yep, we did.
Yep. Of you know what kind of things can you do on the side just to make a little bit of cash here and there, and what you can do. Business investments, definitely. You know what are some? You know, I put down here. I want to give an example, but you know, what are some examples of that you guys think of when you see business investments? What could you invest in another business? I put down hard money. That's a simple one. You know, if I have money and they want to borrow the money for a house, you know, I'm the hard money lender. So you know, that's a way to I use that as a business investment. Okay.
A lawn care company.
Yeah.
Somebody else is gonna, you know, they want some money to buy the equipment and they're gonna do all the work and you're gonna take a portion of the profits.
There are more businesses being sold now because of our generation, than in the history. And us old farts are retiring out and there's tons of businesses being on the market.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And their kids don't want them.
And the kids don't want them.
yeah, the kids don't want them. They just want the money for them. Right. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen, you know, people pass away and boom, the business just goes away because the kids didn't want to take it over.
Well, last week we talked about side hustle, like, is it worth getting paid $20 an hour? Is your time worth it? Figure out what you're worth. I tried to convince my husband that it's not worth me cleaning the house, but he said we don't make that much money yet.
Well, yeah. That's a discussion none of us are going to get involved
It's a
in.
limited belief,
Yeah.
but he's questioning what you would do at that time. But
Yeah.
are you going on a spa day, or are you gonna make some lead generation
Yeah.
calls, right?
Yeah, so that's definitely one. You know, just taking money and like you said, I met with a guy yesterday that actually built up a very large business. I won't name it because it's a local business. Built it up, sold it, made stupid amounts of millions off of it. And he sat at home for about 6 months, and he told me yesterday he's doing another business and he's bored. So he's taking that money, investing it in this business, and he is doing it for his son-in-law and son, so they have something to do, but also it keeps it involved as well. So that was just, you know, that's an example of that. You know, investing in your kid's business, right? My son started you know, he's an entrepreneurship. He's still in school, still in college, and started a survey company. So, you know, he's got that bug early. It took me about 20 years of working before I got the bug, and he's got it already. So, you know, those are kinds of things that you know, you never know. You know, nut company, there you go. Or something, you know, you invest in a charity or something like that that you're able to maybe not make a ton of money on, but you make a little bit of money, but you get a real satisfaction out of it. So there's all kinds of places to use your money, invest it, and get money off of it. Now, I will tell you this, and I know that a lot of people in this room could definitely say it, is that being in a business partnership with somebody, and that is different than investing the money. For example, the hard money example I gave here, I'm not telling them how to do their job. I'm just giving them the money, and they pay me the X% off of my money. I don't tell them how to do that. That's a business investment. If I'm in business with them and I front the money, but we're in partnerships together, that's a whole different thing. And partnerships are tougher than marriages, just so you know, because there's typically a lot of money involved. Okay, so just FYI. I'll tell you I've got a saying for that, but I won't do it on camera. So that way, in case anybody
You
ever
don't get
asks.
those in person, right? You don't get those on camera.
Yeah. I want to go back to one slide real quick, because there's something I want to point out since we're all business people here. You know, unlimited upside, key benefits, expense flexibility. And we'll do this off camera. Expense flexibility. I'm going to use myself as an example. Let's just say, for example, I have some rental houses, and I have a side-by-side, and I live in an area that has gone through a lot of snow and maybe really cold temperatures. And I make the decision that my rental houses need me to have a snow plow on my side-by-side so that I could, quote unquote, plow the driveways. Now, I probably won't plow the driveways, but I use it on my personal house. I've actually gone and done Rob's a little bit, so there's things you can do inside of your business and run some expenses through them. Now, I try not to do that very much. I have a trailer that's a business trailer. Now, I know a lot of people on Rob's team has used or some people have used my trailer on the weekends and things like that. So there's things like that. I'm sure Brian can tell all kinds of stories of where he has money hidden. So his name is Brian Hazley, IRS. He's right back here.
Oh, now you're back on camera, I see
I'm back on camera, yeah.
I paid IRS my $10.
There you go. You gotta explain this one. That's my turn.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, so here we go. But other assets, all right, Social Security, I've been told since we were, 20 years old or 18, hey, there's not gonna be anything for Social Security. It's still there. I'm not gonna get into political conversation because I hate politics. Precious metals, I personally don't know anything about them. Can't talk about them, good, bad, or any different. It's all according to who you talk to. Crypto, I know even less about it. I know Brian has done some things with some gas or some natural gas or stuff, and it's a whole different animal in itself. So there's all kinds of different things. Collectibles, Rolex watches, that's the only thing I could come up with as an example, because I don't know anything else. So intellectual property, patents and things like that, come up with a great idea for a business, right? And I hate to keep picking on the nut company, but come up with something like that, and something that maybe you're getting paid royalties off of, trademarks or things like that. So I don't have any. I don't know if anyone else does.
This is probably the bucket we'll spend the least amount of time talking about, just because but just knowing that those are also considered investments, and some people go really deep and hardcore heavy into some of these ones, so we have to at least mention them. They are in existence and people do invest in them. We don't really invest in any of these. But they are a possibility. Alright, so how the bucket system works. On the next slide, you're gonna see two different thoughts of how you could use it. Okay, so in this example, you have $1,000 extra that you earned this month that doesn't need to go into your budget for your running your household. You did an extra thing, you sold something, yes, your cash reserve bucket is full. You have, actually no, it's not full yet. So you just did something that got you sold something, you put something on eBay, whatever, you got an extra $1,000 in. So one school of thought is you fund all of those buckets equally. You take that $1,000, you put $200 in your cash reserves, you put $200 in your 401k, you put $200 in the fund that's growing to buy real estate, you put $200 in your business investment fund, and you put $200 in crypto. Okay, that's one way to do it. The amount doesn't matter, it's the consistency of doing it. So you get $100, you do the same thing, $20 in each bucket. It's just to build the habit and the consistency. Okay, now buckets will fill at different speeds. Again, your cash reserve bucket, that one's gonna get to a certain amount and then it's gonna stop. So then that $1,000 would not go into that bucket anymore, it would just go into the other ones, okay? If you're doing a real estate fund, maybe you're saving in that bucket just up for a down payment on a house. So when that one fills up to $20,000, that bucket gets emptied and you start over, okay? The financial instrument bucket doesn't ever have to be filled or capped or whatever, you can just keep putting the same each time. But just understanding that those buckets are gonna fill at different times, get poured out, and then start over again, okay? So, start with what you have, even $50 split 5 ways begins building your habit and your system for doing it. Okay, now, this is 2 different strategies for doing the bucket system, okay? Approach 1 was what we just talked about. Fill all 5 buckets at the same time, and you allocate a percentage to each every single time, okay? So that creates balanced, diversified wealth from the very beginning, and it builds the habit. You're just doing it, taking it, splitting it, filling buckets, okay? Approach 2, which is probably what most of us do, is we focus our intensity majority on 1 or 2 buckets, and then once we meet our goals with those buckets, then we focus maybe on some of the other ones, okay? So there is not necessarily a right order or a wrong one for you. So it says the only wrong approach is moving without any intention or just never starting at all, right? Now, I do think if you just do the focused intensity, then maybe some of those other buckets are never going to get touched, right? If you only do cash reserves and real estate, well then you're never gonna have anything in your 401k bucket. You're never gonna have it, you know? So I would say, other than maybe bucket 5, at least across the 4 buckets, plan to have something in each of those. All right. Back to you.
Flipping the triangle. So, all right, so financial freedom doesn't come from high income alone. We've already established that you can't save your way to wealth. It comes from building assets that produce their own income independent of your active work, all right? This is the whole definition of passive income, right? We generate assets that will produce passive income, especially when we choose to stop working or slow down our working life. So assets that create income. So your current reality, you currently, all of us in this room pretty much trade time for income, right? We're trading time so we can earn an income, and then we can hopefully buy assets if it's our focus. The transition, so we're gonna flip the triangle here, all right? So right now, assets are at the top and our earned income is at the bottom, all right? We want it to be assets at the top still, but there's much more income flowing from the assets and very little income flowing from active work. That's called flipping the triangle, all right? So, which bucket do you think could help you flip the triangle the fastest? Based on your current skills, this is a question for everybody. So based on your current skills, resources, and situation, which bucket would help you get there faster? Flipping the triangle. In real estate, a lot of us would think real estate is gonna help us flip the triangle faster. Maybe we wanna read this book, okay? So this is The Wealthy Code by George Antone, right? Remember how this whole class is thinking, you know, we want you to help you think how wealthy people think, right? So if we're not thinking how the wealthy think, how do we know we're making the right decision? How do we know real estate's for us? How do we know crypto's for us? How do we know 401k is the way to do it? All right, I mean, Buffy's approach is not wrong that we have to play in multiple buckets, because the wealthy play in multiple buckets, right? Understand that. The wealthy are not sitting in 1 or 2 buckets. They're playing in all buckets, okay? But we need to make sure our strategies align not only with our skills, all right, our knowledge, but we also need to think about, do I have the right knowledge? Do I have the right skill, all right? If you knew there was a way to earn, let's say, we're gonna get into a calculator in a second on the next slide, I can earn $10,000 a month in passive income. One way might take you 10 years, one way might take you 20 years, one way would take you 30 years. Which way would you choose?
10 years.
That's your question, right? 10 years, right? You choose the 10-year path, right? But how do you know which path you're on is the right path if you only know one thing? Again, the trap of real estate, right? We know real estate, and we hear and we read all the time. We go to a family reunion, they talk about real estate helping us fund our perfect life, right? But what if that's not really for us, right? And what if we're just sitting in one bucket because we know that bucket? So we have to be willing to read what the wealthy do, all right, in order to understand what they're looking at when they look at the different buckets, okay? So Alright, let's flip into triangle. Alright, so how much do you actually need? We've asked this question before, right? Right, and this was a hard question to answer, right? Right? Does anyone remember the answer they came up with? How much money do you want based on today's dollars, not a trick question, based on today's dollars, in order to say, I have enough passive income, work becomes optional? Anybody wanna throw out their number? You got a number? Work is optional because I have this much passive income reliably coming in every month.
I mean, for me, it would just be what do we run our whole household on right now? I know what our monthly budget is, so as soon as I have that passive income coming in, then work becomes optional.
Okay,
I would say, no, and I just went through I would say 5,000 monthly.
okay,
We live very low.
so, do you think the number is bigger than what you think or smaller than what you think?
5,000 is bigger than my budget right now.
5,000 is bigger than your budget, okay, so. Retirement planning, here's what they're gonna tell you. That the average person, right, I'm not trying to offend anybody, cause I know none of you are average. You average?
Heck, no.
Okay, just checking. Alright, never asked you the question, so none of you are average, but the average person, when they stop working, they live on 70% of what they lived on before when they were working. Why is that? When you meet with a financial advisor, they're actually thinking you're only gonna need 70% of what you need today in order to survive. They're thinking you don't have a mortgage anymore. They're thinking you don't need a car payment. Your car is somehow gonna last forever now. Or they're gonna take your keys away from you because you're too old, I don't know. Right?
You're not driving as
Brian
much.
still drives, I mean, we all have to look out for him, right?
You're not making gas station food purchases on your way to and from work.
If you don't know, you don't know. You
Yeah.
miss a week, you miss a lot, so. 70%, right? Most educational advice that we are given in the general population is meant to keep us in the middle class.
I think it ought to be 130%,
Why?
because now you're trying to enjoy life instead of working your ass off. And
So now your
you're gonna-
full-time job is spending money, not making money.
Do what?
Now your full-time job is spending money, not making money.
Yeah, but it's gonna take more to spend it.
I know.
But here's what will happen, Brian, and I'll tell you because I went through this with my dad, is then you worry about running out of money.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you spend even less because you're worried about, I don't have enough. Even though the math says you have way more than enough.
unless you continue working on your passive income and not your true
It
income.
doesn't matter, you've retired, you're never working again. You're not gonna make one more dollar on your own.
Earned
You
income.
still, your expenses will go down because you're worried that you don't have enough to make it.
And a lot of that worry comes because you don't know.
That's right.
You don't know what the actual math is.
We don't know our expiration date.
We
That's
don't
the
know
number
that.
one, that's the biggest one.
Yep.
And how much, what's gonna come up, when's the car, all the things that go into that. So,
There is a strategy, I think it's called, buy, borrow, die. Y'all heard of that? Alright, there's a whole book written on it, alright, which I don't have a slide on it, so I'll have to get that information for you if you'd like. But it's the wealthy mindset, right? The wealthy are gonna die with debt, right? Because debt is leverage to earn income, right? Buffy's getting really aggravated right now with me because I'm starting to go into the finance world, alright? And I can't help it. I can't not tell you what I know when something's really good, alright? But, I'll get more information.
Hold on, Rob, with that statement,
Yeah.
because your approach is based on being an entrepreneurial spirit.
Mhm.
Her approach is being a employee for life or
Sure.
a worker for life. So she's got,
No, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. Her approach is not because she's an employee. Her approach is because of what she knows.
Okay.
what she believes to be true about how money works, which is what we're fed to believe, which is you only need 70%. You can put your money in a bank and they'll take care of you, or your 401k, and that's going to work. You just have to die when you're 78 or whatever, right? So that is what is true, right? It's not because in finance, just as an example, I'm working with a lot of people who are teachers, who are government employees, who are plumbers, who are airline pilots, who are engineers, who are real estate professionals, and they don't all come with the knowledge in order to make that work. They have to learn it, right? So we are given knowledge at some point in our lives that affect our decisions, not the fact that she's a W-2 employee.
Rephrase that statement.
Okay.
A real estate agent or a worker, a carpenter, whatever, not a independent businessman, investor that's really thinking your thoughts versus the way we've been taught in school that, you just gotta go get a job, earn a living, retire, and that's all you're gonna need to do.
Right.
Am I?
I think we're saying the same thing.
Same thing.
We are saying the same thing, right?
And
We're
what
not
we
business partners, right?
Yeah, we are. We have these conversations all the time, by the way.
What's your meetings are
We're
fun?
saying the same thing, and then a half hour later, we're like,
Yeah.
well, that was a half hour waste on saying the same thing.
You really sound intelligent, Rob. Oh, you do too, Brian.
No, that never happens. Conversation.
Alright,
So,
for this slide example,
we're gonna-
let's
we're gonna-
use
I'm gonna show you the
$10,000
calculator.
for this
Right?
slide example.
This is an important conversation, right? This is an important conversation. The question of how much we actually need, don't let someone else decide that for you. Because when they do that, they're telling you need less than what you think you need. That's what I want you to hear, okay? They're telling you, and sometimes the calculators that you can find online will tell you that you only need 70%, right? They'll have formulas. That's not in here, okay? That's not part of this formula, okay? So just don't fall prey to those calculators that are forcing you to the middle class, right? That is not a place you want to be. And that's certainly not why we're doing this class. We're doing this class to teach you how to wealthy think, okay? All right, so I used $10,000 for this example. I plugged in these numbers earlier today. So $10,000 would be $120,000 in annual income. Again, not thinking about inflation, just using today's dollars, okay? Enter your total current retirement assets. So it's whatever assets you have that are producing income, okay? And this formula in here is based on the 4% rule. We talked about the 4% rule before, right? We'll talk about it again in a second, all right? Does everybody understand what the 4% rule is? You know what that is?
Inflation?
Let's say you have $1 million, all right, and you're earning 4%. That 4% equals $40,000 a year in income in terms of interest, all right?
That you can spend without hurting the.
Without hurting the principal, and it's gonna keep earning 4% every year, all right? So if I want $120,000, then I've gotta have, $3 million earning 4% to throw off $120,000. Does that make sense? So $3 million in cash in the bank that's earning 4% is gonna earn me $120,000. That makes sense, right?
Because you can take that much money out each year without worrying it because it's
You're
gonna
not eroding the
replace
principal.
itself.
Right? Now, retirement assets, again, that could be real estate, it could be different things, but the question is what does it throw off in terms of interest? What's the ROI? What's the rate of return on whatever it is? I could have $500,000 in real estate, and is that giving me on that $500,000 number, am I earning 4% return? Without question. Does that make sense? All right, so I just threw a number in there, $500,000, so we can see how this works. You all are getting these calculators in the slideshow that we sent it to you, okay? $2,850. That's actually my number when I'm 67. If I choose to take Social Security at that point, that is what I make. You had a number in there that was double that.
I
don't
didn't
know.
even put anything in.
You didn't put
there.
anything in there? Okay. I was like, who's getting $6,000? They must be lucky. All right, so I went in. You can click on this link right here. If you don't have an account, you got to create one, but you can get to the Social Security site that tells you how much money based on your Social Security number, is going to be getting every month and when you're going to get that.
If
Okay.
it still is around.
Huh?
If it's still around by the time you get it.
Political, yeah, not going there.
Hey, we didn't think
It's
it
still
was
there
gonna
right
be
now.
there, but
right?
it's there.
So $28.53 is what I'm going to get. All right, a month. So I'll get $34,000 annually for all the money I paid in taxes, yay me. Alright, so, current retirement account, yeah, so this has been calculated using the 4% rule, alright? So I basically have $20,000 coming in, $500,000, 4%, I have $20,000 a year coming in, if that's what it's throwing off. Make sense? Alright, now I can enter in other income here if I want, but I just chose to go with the basics. I've got a pile of assets that equals this is what I want, this is what Social Security's gonna pay me, what's the gap? Alright, so let's scroll down here. Gonna do it the old school way. Alright, so it says the total assets required at retirement are $2,144,100, right? So assets left to acquire is 1.6 million. I've got to find $1.6 million in assets that are going to throw off 4%. Make sense? So my retirement gap right now, I'm getting this much. If I stopped everything right now, I'm getting $54,000 a year. Far short of my goal of 120. My actual goal is $360,000 a year, or $30,000 a month. I didn't plug that in, but I will later, right? Because I want to see how far off I am. And I know that that's going to take that number of required assets and it's going to balloon it up to like 8 billion, right? Of assets that I need to throw off 4%. Let's go to the next slide. Buffy, how do I get back?
Just click
On the top?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Questions on that? We all understand that? Nope, this is, wait, we're not, well, actually, so we said this when we talked about the 4% rule a few weeks ago, that it's no longer the 4% rule, that the wealthy are thinking 3% rule. All right, why is it no longer 4%? It's because inflation, all right? It's because things like taxes, all right? So it's now 3%, okay? Which means you need more money, right? Instead of 3 million, I need 4 million to throw off the same $120,000 a year, right? Does that scare you? Does that make you excited that those are the numbers?
It's like, started too late.
No. You didn't start late. You just need a more aggressive plan, right? But
Is that what you feel?
It's never too late.
okay, here's what we think about. Okay, we think about. I think about $4 million in cash. I need $4 million in cash. Hear us loud and clear. The buckets aren't cash. There's only one cash bucket. The other buckets are businesses, are real estate investments, or other investments. And what do you know true about real estate? How much cash to have $4 million in real estate? How much cash do you need to have in order to buy $4 million in real estate? Not 4 million.
No.
Maybe at worst 20% of that, right? So see, what you need to get to where you have that pile of assets isn't what you think. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
Right? It could be a lot less than 20% too. Okay? It could be 5% or 10% or something along those lines, okay? You could bring other investors, partners, right? As long as you really vetted them out, right? And to get there faster, right? So I don't know what he said, I probably don't want to know. Alright, I'll let you take over the slide part. But don't be, I don't want anybody to be scared by those numbers. I want you to be excited because now you know. Alright, if you know, then you can make a plan around it. Alright, and the plan isn't as scary as you think, alright? But it doesn't happen, you said intention earlier. It doesn't happen without intention, okay? We're gonna get into those things, like how do you go and do this next? That's the other classes that we'll be doing, okay?
Well, and even just remembering from my other example, like small amounts per month can still do a pretty, large amount of things for you when you have time to add to them. Okay, so Rob and I disagree a little bit on some of these. So you get both sides of our coin, right? So
Whatever she says is right.
in my perspective, behavior beats knowledge. You need knowledge to change your behavior, but what matters more than all of the highfalutin knowledge is, are you going to actually do something? Are you going to be intentional? Are you going to make a change? Are you going to do anything. If you just keep collecting more and more and more knowledge and you never actually do anything with it, it's just paralysis by analysis, right? Like a lot of people get stuck in the, I'm just gonna keep learning all the things,
Yeah.
and then they never actually do anything. So that's why I'm saying, like, you know enough to get started, even if that's $100 a month, you know, but now you have to put some behavior behind it. You have to do at least something with what you're learning from us, okay?
And a lot of people would say that it's really 90% behavior, 90% mindset, right? And 10% knowledge. Can I say that?
Sure.
Okay. Well, just real quick on that, okay? Do you believe that you possess all of the knowledge necessary to be wealthy today? Yes or no?
No.
Yes.
Well, the answer could be no, it could be yes. That's you as an individual, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't read this book, then I'm gonna say no. The answer is no. You don't possess all the knowledge because you're not doing it a smart way.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it a way that's really, really hard. Okay?
Mhm.
You're doing it in one bucket probably. And the wealthy don't live in one bucket. So if you are intent on learning how the wealthy think and the wealthy do it, then you need that knowledge and then you need the behavior. Okay? When I say then, that's wrong, Buffy. You need the behaviors now too, around budgeting, around how to think about money and how to think about prioritizing things, right? And those are all true and important. But don't stop learning. Don't walk out of this class thinking, I know all I need to know, because you don't. I don't, all right? I'm paying a lot of money to attend a class right now on Monday nights from 7 to 8:30 so that my mind can be just shattered every night while I watch hours of videos every week to learn about this guy and how he's teaching people to think about how the wealthy earn money, right? I know a lot about real estate, about oil and gas, about short-term rentals and self-storage. I know a lot about these things. And what I do know is that those pay about 4%, all right? But I'm 53 years old and 4% is not the number for me. I want to be able to earn a much larger yield on my assets so that I can stop working in 3 years or 4 years and not when I'm 67, all right? Because I got a lot of mountains to climb. I don't know if y'all know that. I got a lot of mountains to climb, and when you're 67, they're a lot harder to climb. Go ahead, Buffy.
So these are just some reflection questions, and Critter, you can jump in too if you want. So which bucket do you feel is the strongest? So where maybe you can naturally build wealth without realizing it? Which bucket leaks? Do you have money flowing in and quickly flowing right back out? Which bucket do you not have at all? What's completely missing from your wealth building strategy? And then did anything change when you saw the numbers or surprise you about the calculated results? So again, you have 3 different calculators that you're gonna get to kind of play around. All right, so we're gonna end here with some homework for you. So identify your 5 buckets. So there's 5 bucket categories, right? And what do you currently have in each one, or do you want to have in each one, right? So so if you have a real estate bucket, what do you want to have in that bucket? Do you want to have short-term rentals, long-term rentals? Like, what are the things from that class of choices do you want in that bucket? And then estimate your rough balances. Don't obsess over your exact numbers, but get a general sense of where your wealth currently sits. If you've done your net worth sheet, then you know exact numbers, okay? And then decide which bucket needs attention. Pick one bucket that needs immediate focus and commit to one concrete action this week, okay? So, not perfection, awareness, and intention moving forward, okay? So small, consistent actions. We're building the habit. You're getting the knowledge. Just do one thing at a time. Even if it's just deciding what your 5 buckets are and hey, how much do I have this month and what could I put in those buckets? Even if it's $10, it's at least a small movement in the right direction.
And if you don't already have the habit of time blocking this to be in your calendar at one point during the week to go and work on, that's your first step. All right, is block an hour to work on these things, okay?
Critter, anything else?
Yeah, I wanna, just, I was sitting here thinking about the 3 calculators and how to, don't open one, put some numbers in, close it, open the next one, put some numbers in, close it. Really, if you could have all 3 of them open at the same time, because they do go together. Rob's example up there on Social Security and all that was 2.4 million, I think was the number that your net worth, you know, that you were getting income off of. Well, you just need to be able to move the numbers around and on your expenses as well. The calculator that Buffy had on, hey, where can I come up with another $187? Okay, well, does that need to be $250? And you put it into the calculator I had where it compounds, and then all of a sudden, so use the 3 calculators together, not independently. And I think the numbers won't be as scary as you do that. And I think, you know, when you look at a Rob's number and you say, wow, 2.4 million before I'm gonna be able to do that. Don't look at it that way. What's the first step to get there? You gotta know where you're going. And I think that's the biggest thing from that. It is a big number, right? It is a very big number. You know, you're talking about 5% or less of the number of people that have that much in America. So, you know, don't get all caught up on the numbers. Be able to adjust them and watch the compound work.
You won't get there until you start.
You won't get it till you start. You don't get there overnight. Wealth is a patience game, all right? You must make peace with the time it takes for wealth to happen, right? And that's hard for all of us. It's hard for all of us, right, to make that peace, but we have to always remind ourselves, no one really gets rich overnight, right? So no one becomes wealthy overnight. It's almost like a generational experience, right? And what are you teaching your kids about wealth, right? Because if you fail, maybe they won't, and they can pay for you when you're old.